What if I told you that one of the world's oldest philosophies wasn't built around fear, but around responsibility? That thousands of years ago, in ancient Persia, a man asked a question that still feels surprisingly modern. The future of the world depends on the choices you make today. His name was Zarathustra. In Farsi, in Persian, we say Zarathustra, known in the West as Zoroaster. Even if you've never heard his name, you've probably encountered ideas that echo his teachings. Today, I don't want to convince you to believe in an ancient religion. I want to introduce you to a civilization, a way of seeing the world, a way of understanding what it means to be human. Because if you want to understand Iran, not just its politics, but its people, its poetry, its celebrations, and even its language, you first need to understand the philosophy that shaped the Persian soul for the centuries. Before Zoroaster, people across much of the ancient world believed nature was uh, ruled by countless divine powers: lightning, rain, fire, the sun, the wind. Each had its own sacred force. People offered sacrifices, performed rituals, and hoped to gain the favor of supernatural beings. But Zoroaster changed the question. Instead of asking, how can we please the gods? He asked, are you choosing truth or falsehood? That simple question transformed the role of the human being. For perhaps the first time in history, morality, not ritual, became the center of a spiritual life. A revolutionary idea. In Zoroaster's vision, the universe isn't a meaningless battlefield of random forces. It's a moral universe. Every thought, every word, every action helps shape reality. Human beings are not spectators, they are participants, builders. Every person becomes responsible for making the world a little brighter or a little darker. Thousands of years later, this idea still feels astonishingly modern. At the center of this philosophy stands Ahura Mazda, often translated simply as God. But that translation misses something important. Ahura Mazda represents wisdom, truth, justice, light, and the intelligent order of existence. Power alone does not make Ahura Mazda worthy. Wisdom does, truth does, justice does. That distinction shaped Persian ideas of leadership for centuries. A ruler was expected to rule through justice, not merely through a force. Perhaps the most beautiful concept in all of Zoroastrian philosophy is Asha. I like it very much, this word, Asha. No single English word captures it. Truth, order, justice, harmony, the natural order of reality. Imagine living in such a way that your thoughts, your words, and your actions are aligned with reality itself. That is Asha. Whenever someone keeps a promise, builds instead of destroys, speaks honestly, protects nature, creates beauty, or acts with integrity. They are moving toward Asha. Druj, or in Farsi we say Duruk. Opposing Asha is Druj, Duruk, usually translated as the lie. But Druj is much more than telling a lie. It is deception, corruption, chaos, cruelty, anything that tears apart the natural and moral order of life. This is why, throughout Persian's history, lying was never seen as a merely a personal flaw. It was considered an attack on the order that holds society together. Good thoughts, good words, good deeds. In Farsi we say پندار نیک، گفتار نیک، کردار نیک. You've probably heard the famous Zoroastrian motto, good thoughts, good words, good deeds. Simple, yet profound. Everything begins with thoughts. Thoughts becomes speech. Speech becomes action. And action shapes the world. According to Zoroaster, changing the world doesn't begin with governments. It begins inside every individual. The secret text of this tradition is called the Avesta. It isn't a single book written at one moment. It's a collection of hymns, prayers, rituals, and philosophical reflections developed across centuries. Its oldest and most treasured section is known as the Gathas. Many scholars believe these poetic hymns preserve the voice of Zoroaster himself. Reading them feels surprisingly intimate. They are not filled with commands. They are filled with questions, reflection, and moral choice. Perhaps the biggest misunderstanding about Zoroastrianism is this. Zoroastrians do not worship fire. Fire is a symbol, nothing more and nothing less. It represents truth, purity, light, wisdom. Let's just think about what fire does. It illuminates darkness. It gives warmth. It transforms. It gathers people together. For ancient Persians, fire became the perfect reminder of the light that should exist within every human being. Standing before fire was never about worshipping flames. It was about remembering their responsibility to live truthfully. Why it still matters. Today, most Iranians are not Zoroastrian. Some are Muslim. Some belong to other religions. Some are secular. Yet, the cultural memory of ancient Persia remains alive. You can still see it in Nowruz, the Persian New Year. In the respect for light, in the celebration for spring, in the value placed on honesty, in the love of gardens, in the poetry of Hafiz and Ferdowsi, even in everyday Persian words. The religion changed. History changed. Empires rose and fell, but Civilizations rarely erase themselves completely. They leave traces in language, in traditions, in imaginations, in collective memory, and across centuries of change through empires rising and falling, something in the precious spirit has remained, a sense of dignity, a memory of justice, a commitment to truth, and perhaps most importantly, a way of resisting darkness, not through force or violence, but through awareness, thoughts, and inner strength. In the ancient teachings associated with Zoroaster, this idea becomes even clearer that human beings are not powerless but responsible, participant in the struggle between truth and falsehood, light and darkness. And so, in the face of oppression, silence, and injustice, this cultural memory continues to echo, not as anger, but as awareness, not as destruction, but as the insistence on truth, a quiet, enduring resistance rooted in thought, guided by light, and shaped by the belief that beauty and justice must not be surrendered to darkness. Learning about Zoroaster isn't about becoming Zoroastrian, just as learning about Plato doesn't make you a Polytheist, or studying Buddhism doesn't make you Buddhist. It's about understanding one of the great civilizations that shaped human history. And if we want to understand Iran, not only the country and today's map, but the civilization behind it, we have to look deeper than politics. We have to listen to the voices that have echoed across the land of thousands of years. Because civilization are remembered not only by the empires they built, but by the idea they left behind. And perhaps that is the greatest legacy of ancient Persia. Not power, but the belief that every human being can help bring a little more truth, a little more light, and a little more wisdom into the world. Until next time, keep the flame of your curiosity alive.